Hi,
we're Yeela,
and Leah.
and we are here today to talk a little bit about how is it like to be the fourth generation for Holocaust survivors and about Yom HaShoah in general.
Okay, so Yela, who in your family went through the Holocaust? What do you know about what happened to them?
So four of my grandparents, both sides of the family, went through the Holocaust in different sides of the world. Two of them in Russia, and one of them was a partisan and escaped the war before it all started. And one of them, my grandma, she was in Auschwitz-Birkenau until the war ended. And it was a very big part of my childhood growing up, and she's still alive, so that's still a story that I hear.
So for me, both of my grandparents from my great grandparents from my mom's side went through the Holocaust, but my great grandma didn't want to speak about it at all. I think she was too traumatized and she didn't want to go back to all of her awful memories from the Holocaust. But my great grandfather spoke about his experience from the Holocaust all the time, and he published a book, and he would go with March of the Living to back to Poland, and he would often speak about his story, and it was very important to him that his children and grandchildren would know what happened and will continue telling his story and his family story even after he's gone.
So you feel like you heard about it from a very young age and it was always something you spoke about, or it was something that just after you grew up you started hearing about it?
So I think I heard about it from a very young age. Every Yom HaShoah, my grandfather, he was the son of my great-grandfather, the Holocaust survivor. So every Yom HaShoah we would know that he's busy because he's going to all of those different lectures, and he would every Yom HaShoah come to my elementary school, and he would speak about it in a different way because it was an elementary school, but still he would tell the story of my great grandfather. And then when he got older and started to forget parts of the lecture, and he's not able to do those lectures alone, then my mom started to go and do lectures around Israel to speak about her grandfather's story. And then she would take my big sister Yali and me to those lectures, and we would sit there and we would hear the story over and over and over again. And I think that it was a huge part of my family growing up, that we always knew that the Holocaust and keeping the memory of all of the people that were murdered during the Holocaust is such an important thing and such a big value for us as a family. And every year, my mom and all of her cousins and aunts and uncles go to Poland to the town my great grandfather was born, and they have memorial stuff there, like memorial stones there. And there is a picture in a synagogue where my great grandfather grew up in, that in the picture it's all of my big extended family, to show that even though his family were killed during the Holocaust, he still got back to Israel and built his own life and a new life.
So I feel like in most houses it's like that, but my house was it's very ironic to say, but it was a very Holocaust vibe in my childhood. Of course, my grandparents did not tell us everything when we were very little. They were saying only few things. When I was really little, I heard only, I was there. It's a war that happened. And when I was starting to grow up and understand more and read books and read and watch things, my grandparents decided that it's time, my parents also, they can speak about it more freely. And from a very young age, like Leah said, I heard it also all the time. Every time I used to say something or come to their house, I always remember sitting down and they would talk about it very freely, and they would tell everything that happened to them, or just stories you never heard before, and then you had the complete story after a while. And as Leah said, they repeated the story a few times, but every time I felt like when I hear it, it's such an honor. I remember when I was growing up, I always, when I met my grandparents, my grandma especially, in the last couple of years, it's very emotional for me because like going there and knowing that this woman is one of the last people on this like earth, one of the last hundreds of survivors that can speak so like clear and so amazingly about her story, and to hear it directly from her and not from anyone else, it's like for me it's such an honor to do that. And I was so like overwhelmed with this emotion that every time I used to sit with her, I used to be the one starting crying. And I feel like I had the whole picture just after a couple of years because when I was really little, she didn't want to tell us everything. So I think that's something that we always grew up with.
So you speak about the honor of hearing the story. As a fourth generation, and also like you mentioned before, are less and less people who are really like actually Holocaust survivor. This generation is starting to disappear. And as a fourth generation, do you feel responsible for keeping that story?
So I always felt like there are other people who are hearing the same stories, so maybe they'll continue that. But as the time goes by and I see those people starting to forget things or the world can forget about those things. It's not the main topic that we have those days. I feel like it's our mission and it's our thing to say, like, I look at my nephews, for example, and I see, like, they know my grandma, but in 10, 20 years, those stories would just be stories. They wouldn't have anyone to go to and ask the questions that I asked as a fourth generation who had this amazing people in my life. So I feel like that's our mission in life. That's our mission as a generation and as people that can capture as many things as we possibly can, to try and remember how like as much as we can, because in 10 or 20 years we wouldn't have anyone else to go to. We wouldn't be able to say, oh, like someone will answer my questions. I can just call my grandma and she will answer everything that I have to do or have to ask for Yom HaShoah or for anything else. So I feel like that's a great thing that we need to do, and it's our mission as a very young generation that can, like, all the time, all of our life, we are so busy capturing everything. If it's like social media and everything, it's so easy for us, that I think that it's our mission, our generation's mission.
Also, I think that now with all the technology we have stuff that can help us capture the evidence. For me, I'm really afraid that in a couple of years we won't have any more like live evidence of what happened, because there won't be people to tell their story and to say that they've been there, that like they're actually a living proof of what happened. So I think that we should use all the technology we have now to film all of the Holocaust survivor who can still speak about it. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Yad Vashem did it a couple of years ago, that they filmed a lot of Holocaust survivors telling their story.
So if we're talking about social media, do you think there's any way, for example, like a couple of years ago, they did Eva's story. Do you think that's a good thing that we can do for the next generations to understand and to see it this way? Or is it something that makes like the Holocaust topic too easy for people to understand? So it's like it's something we should do as like the next generation to capture it this way, do you think?
I think that it's definitely something that we should do. Social media is a great tool that we can use for our advantage. Also, last year there was a thing that is called Zikaron Basalon, which is memory in your living room. It's an initiative that happens every year since I don't know how many years, but since a long time. But last year they asked for celebrities to come and film the Zikaron Basalon and post it on their story, and also invite their audience, like all of the like famous Israeli celebrity audience, to come and participate in those events. And I think that was a great tool to bring awareness, just for like hearing the stories from the Holocaust survivors and participating in that initiative, because social media can help us reach an audience that we wouldn't reach any other way.
Do you think there's one thing that you feel like you're afraid the world will forget, that the world will not pay attention in a couple of years? I can say on myself that I think in this matter, it's very important for me every time I'm telling my grandma's story, my grandparents' story, to explain to people, any people, even people that knows the story and people that have the same memories with their grandparents. I think it's very important for me to tell people those are humans. Like when I look at my grandma, it's very easy to say like, oh, she's like so old, it's so different, it's so different times, it's so far from me. So it's very important for me, for example, to every time I tell the Holocaust story, to tell her how much she's like, every time we're coming to visit her, she's like telling of how much her childhood was so funny and how much she loved gymnastics and she was the most like flexible kid in her school and how much she liked chocolate and how much she used to steal sugar from the trucks that were coming in, and like how much human she is and not how much she's like just a very far story from us. Is there anything that you feel like from your grandparents that is very important for you to give to other people who hears the stories?
So I think that I mostly fear that would be forgotten is the people that didn't survive the Holocaust. So like you said, they were actual humans. I think that when my great-grandfather spoke about his Holocaust experience and just spoke in general, he would mention his brothers and sisters and his parents, and he would speak about, like you said, like their hobbies and activities and how their relationship was. And I think that now when we speak about the Holocaust, we mostly speak about the Holocaust survivors and their story, and we don't speak about all of the families they left behind, like that were left behind, and all of the people they lost.
So I think it's very important for both of us to just send a message for everyone that is maybe hearing this podcast, to just remember that those are humans and that's a story that could happen to any of us in any time. And it's very important for us as the fourth generation, or even like, someone who hears that maybe might be the fifth generation, to just takes those stories that takes everything and you remember, capture it as much as you can, go and visit the grandparents that you still have, because that's not going to stay forever, and it's very important for us. And we wish to all of you to have very meaningful Yom HaZikaron Hashoah, because it's very important for both of us and for the entire community, we're sure. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for joining us. Hope it was interesting for you.
And that's it.
Bye.